Hey everyone, and welcome. Today, we are diving deep into the EU's landmark AI Act, but we're going to focus on a piece of the puzzle that, honestly, a lot of people overlook, and it's this. Who are the official guardians that get to decide if a high-risk AI is actually safe enough to use in the real world? I mean, just think about it for a second. We're talking about AI that could soon be making literal life-or-death decisions in our hospitals, or deciding who gets a job. The potential here is absolutely incredible, but it brings up a huge question. How can we be sure these systems are safe? Who's checking the checkers? Well, the EU actually has an answer for this. They've set up a whole class of official gatekeepers for the entire system. They're called notified bodies, and you can think of them as the independent referees for the most powerful and riskiest AI out there. Now, let me be super clear. We're not talking about just any old consulting firm you can hire. The AI Act is really specific here. A notified body has to be an official organization set up under the national law of a member state. So they're less like a private company and more like a group that's been officially deputized by the government with a single critical mission: protect the public by running these essential safety checks. Okay, so you might be wondering, what does it actually take to become one of these guardians? Well, the EU doesn't just hand out this massive responsibility to anyone. The whole system is built on a foundation of really strict core principles, what I like to call the pillars of trust. And here's their basic code of conduct. First, unwavering independence. And this one is a no-brainer, right? They absolutely cannot have any ties to the AI developer they're assessing. You just can't have the fox guarding the henhouse. Second, they need proven competence. They have to have the actual technical, scientific chops to look under the hood of these incredibly complex systems. Third, strict confidentiality, because they're dealing with major trade secrets. And finally, financial accountability. They have to have liability insurance, which is basically the safety net if something goes horribly wrong with an assessment. All right, let's get into the nitty-gritty, because these rules didn't just appear out of thin air. No way. They were forged in the fire of some really intense legislative debates that went on for years, with different parts of the EU government pushing and pulling to get this balance exactly right. And you can see that whole journey right here. The first proposal back in 2021, it basically set the groundwork, but then the European Parliament stepped in and said, whoa, not so fast. We need much tougher rules, especially around things like conflicts of interest and, really importantly, cybersecurity. So the final act we have now is really a compromise that takes those serious concerns to heart while still trying to make the system workable. And this slide is where it gets really interesting, because it shows you that whole compromise process in action. So the Parliament, they originally wanted this super strict 12-month cooling-off period. That meant if you worked at one of these notified bodies, you couldn't go work for the AI company you just assessed for a full year. The final rule is a little more practical. It's a wider ban on direct involvement. So you can't be the person who designed or developed or is now marketing the very same AI you were supposed to be checking independently. It's less about a calendar and more about the kind of work you're doing. And get this, another massive, massive change that came out of these debates was all about cybersecurity. Believe it or not, the first draft from 2021 didn't even mention the word, but lawmakers pushed, and they pushed hard because they realized you can't possibly have a trustworthy AI system if the very organization certifying it is vulnerable to attack. I mean, think about it. These bodies are handling the crown jewels, the source code, the sensitive data. A breach there wouldn't just be an IT headache, it could be a catastrophe. So getting this in the final law was a huge and frankly very necessary win. So, okay, after all that legislative back and forth, let's zoom out. Why does any of this process of certifying the certifiers, why does it actually matter to you and me? Well, it all comes down to building a system that we can actually trust. At the end of the day, this isn't just about some company ticking a compliance box. This is the fundamental machinery designed to give us all confidence in the AI that is about to become deeply woven into our lives. This is the system that's supposed to guarantee that that technology is held to the absolute highest standard before it gets to make a call about your health or your job application. And really, it all boils down to this. The entire, massive, ambitious EU AI Act. It pretty much all rests on the integrity of these notified bodies. If these guardians are strong, and they're independent, and they're competent, then the system has a fighting chance. But if they fail, public trust just evaporates. And the whole goal of creating a safe, trustworthy AI ecosystem, it fails right along with them. It is that important. And so that leaves us with the big question, doesn't it? The rulebook for these guardians has been written, hashed out over years of debate. But now comes the real test. putting it all into practice. Will this carefully designed system actually be enough to earn our trust as AI gets more and more powerful? Well, that's the part we'll have to wait and see. Thanks for joining me.